All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. What a year. What a year. Changes at the level of grassroots, right? So just some housekeeping items. We'd like to have everybody mute themselves if they're not already. And that way we can just hear everybody speaking clearly. You can go ahead and feel free. There's a little reactions button on the bottom of our Zoom screens for most of us. If it's not on yours, it's somewhere. But that is one way you can react to what people are saying here with some smiley faces and whatnot. And then, of course, the chat button there that you can utilize. And it looks like some people have already started utilizing that. So that's good. And so with that, I'm just going to run through the agenda, and then I'm going to pass this off to Al here. So just real quick with the agenda, we're going to go through some introductions, some public comment that will be where you guys want it, if you want to bring something up. We've allotted 10 minutes for that. And then we have a guest speaker from the LO School Board. And then we'll go through each committee and their reports and discuss old business and some action items, which is, I think, not much there, to be honest with you. But new business with the elections that are happening as of today being the last day for elections, and other new business, and then we'll be done with the meeting. And we are truly looking to wrap this up at 8:30, just to stay on schedule and move on from there. So with that, I'm passing the torch on to Mr. Calabria.
It's okay. So yeah, I just wanted to say that we have a full agenda, and so we don't mean to be rude or limiting discussion and conversation, but a lot of discussion and conversation can occur outside of this particular meeting. So I'm committed to trying to manage it to an hour and a half. And so please forgive me in advance if I interrupt you. It's for the purposes of trying to meet that objective, but every question will be answered, and I make a personal commitment for that. Our secretary is Kim Beeler, and I'm grateful that Kim is doing this for us, and that I'm asking her to make special note of the action items or issues that we don't have time to fully discuss, because we will address all of them. There's a lot happening in our neighborhood, probably more major projects in our neighborhood than any other neighborhood in the city in the near future. So we'll be hearing about some of those reports. I also want to say that the election, the voting for the election for our officers is for area reps and for the chair can continue until midnight tonight. We have more people on this call than have actually voted so far. So if you have not voted so far, I encourage you to do that. So with that, I would like to have those present. And I'm going to ask you, I think Mario mentioned this, but please mute your lines. And I can't see, because of my display, I can't see everybody. But if you can use your raise hand icon, which if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you should be able to find it down there, Mario. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's somewhere down there, I think. So with that, I'll just start with the self-introductions. I'm the acting vice chair. I'm filling in for Dave Thatcher. He's moved out of the area and asked me to fill in for him to the end of the term. And we miss Dave. He did a really good job, in my opinion, and he was a major contributor to the neighborhood. But we'll be missing him. So, Kim, can you introduce yourself? And
hi, I'm the secretary. I've been a member of the board for 3 years. I represent Area 3. And I've decided to step down, and I believe Mario will be taking over as area rep, but I'm going to stay involved as the traffic committee coordinator, which is a new position. It's kind of why I started the board, to get engaged with traffic concerns in the Palisades neighborhood. And so I have a report to share later in the meeting today.
Thank you, Ken. Gail. Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself? I mean, we all know who you are.
Eric, Area 6, and I am treasurer and have been treasurer for a couple years now and haven't run away with any of the money. So here I am.
We don't have a lot of money actually, but
That's why I haven't run away with it.
no, at some point we'll have to address that, but very good. Thank you. And I don't know if John Surratt's on the call. I can't see everybody. My screen's displaying 6 people at a time, so I can't see all the hands. I would ask you to try to raise your hand in the icon fashion, but I don't think John's on the call. At least I don't see him. So the next position you'll notice is open area 2, and we actually have 5 open positions, which is going to be one of the priorities for us, is to try to get representation for all of them. The next is Mario.
Yep, I'm Mario. I live in area 3 on Green Tree, near Green Tree and Canyon Road. And you might, I'm one of those neighbors that run home from after work, working a long day on a beautiful Thursday night, and starts the lawnmower up right before 8 o'clock just to get it in. And people posting about, why would anybody be mowing their lawn on this beautiful evening? That would be me, so I can enjoy my Friday. So yeah, I'm that neighbor.
And I'm the guy who's been usually calling Mario.
Hey, Mario.
Thank you. I see Mary Palm's hand is raised. Thank you, Mary, for raising your hand up that way. I'm scrolling through to see if I'm missing anyone, but go ahead. Oh, you need to unmute, Mary.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
My name is Mary Palm. I'm the current representative for Area 9, and I've been representing Area 9 for 3 years, and it's been a learning experience. And so that's it.
Okay. Thank you. I'm listed on here. I am from Area 3, and next is Kirsty.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kirsty Riley, and I have been Area Rep 10 for just about a year now, which means all through COVID. So most of the other board members, we actually have never met. I've been Area Rep, and all of our meetings have been on Zoom since I've been on board. So looking forward to the day that we can all have these meetings in person and maybe do some more fun community things.
Okay. Thank you, Kirsty. Robert Heap. Robert, are you on the call? I've scrolled through and I don't know if you're on. I don't hear your voice. So
Yeah,
Harold?
I don't see him.
Oh, sorry.
I don't see him.
So Harold? Okay.
Yeah, my sound is not so great, but I've volunteered a year ago just to put somebody in Area 12. So I'm here to help, and mostly to help find somebody else that's willing to take my spot to keep leading and participating. Thanks.
Okay. I see a hand. I see a hand raised. So there's an echo here. Surrender. Harold, I think you might have to mute.
Okay, I'm Surinder Chauhan. We just moved here from Michigan actually last year in the middle of the pandemic. We live in Area 8. I have right now in the LO school, one is in high school, other one is primary school. That's my children. And we are really loving the neighborhood. I guess it would be better if it wasn't pandemic. Just waiting for that moment.
Okay, thank you. There's an echo coming from somewhere. I don't know where that is, but
I think probably everyone is not on.
Harold, if you can mute your video there, or your microphone.
Well, I'm trying to. I can't, it doesn't show up right now. My sound is weak and I can't find the mute, so I'll keep trying.
Okay. All right. If anyone, yeah, there's some feedback coming from somewhere. If anyone else would like to introduce themselves, that would be fine. And I can't see everyone's hand, but I'm going to page through. And some people who are here, of course, are going to have presentations, so we will hear more from them later. So, okay.
Al, if you can see me, I'm trying the old-fashioned way to raise my hand.
Yeah, the problem is I can't see this display shows me 6 people at a time, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm Tom Horman. I'm been in the neighborhood for almost 12 years now. I have not been active in the association until recently. I'm the new tree permit coordinator, and I've done quite a bit of other types of volunteer works in the past, including city planning commission, served on the school board for private school, site council for another school, and quite a bit of things like that over the years. So looking forward to this and working with the group.
Thank you, Tom. I know, Rick, would you like to introduce yourself?
I was going to do my do my little talk. I'll introduce myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Rick, we do have a spot for your talk during the presentation here.
Yes, I'll just wait till it.
And I think we have the others already have introduced themselves. So we can move on then. If you can page us through, Mario, to the next slide.
So this is the slide where if anybody else wanted to introduce themselves, that we have public comment here. We set a little bit of time for anybody else that wants to mention something here with the neighborhood or whatnot.
Okay, so thank you for that. It's a good time for public comment. We're going to limit the conversation to a few minutes, and then because we don't have time to thoroughly discuss them, we will address every issue that is raised, and we will put it in a parking lot and come back to it, and possibly even have a special session if it's required. So that's our approach to it. I'm looking for hands scrolling through. I don't see any yet. Okay, going once, going twice. All right. Well, of course, you are free to communicate with us at any time, and we respond to every communication that we receive. We use a generic email address now, so they have been coming to me, and I try to route that to the right committee chair or area rep, whichever is more appropriate. So don't be limited, don't feel in any way limited to tonight, because we want you to talk to us as often as you need to. Okay, Mario, can you page through the next slide, please?
Yeah, so now can you guys see this? Guest speaker. We have Gail. Do you want to?
And I'm still seeing the introduction slide, Mario.
Oh, is that it for everybody?
Yes.
Ah, look at
Yes.
this. It helps if I resume the sharing instead of having it paused.
Wow.
There we go.
Okay.
Now are we all on the same page as I am?
I think I missed, before we do this, I think I skipped a step, and we were going to, originally Councilor Wen was going to attend our meeting, and I invited him to say a few words, and he accepted that, but then unfortunately he was called away, and he's on a red eye to New York City right now, probably as we're speaking. So he wasn't able to come. And so we have two guest speakers actually. One, Gail's going to introduce Ms. Aird, and then we have Bill marked from the Stafford Hamlet. So let's do the school board first. Gail?
Hi, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Kirsten Aird, who is in Area 6. I have to mention that. But she is a member of the Lake Oswego School Board, position 5. She has served 2 years of a 4-year term. She was also, now this is the big part of the introduction here. She was PNA, that's Palisades Neighborhood Association chair for 3 years, and PNA secretary for 2 years. She's certainly prepared for the school board after doing all that. Her day job, she does have a day job. In addition to two children and a husband, she is the director of operations for the Oregon Public Health Division. And so, Kirsten, would you say a few words to our audience?
Yes, happy to. It's great to be here tonight. And I'm going to say it's a little weird because I'm looking at a picture of myself instead of seeing, like, I even lost the little six. Oh, there it is. I'm going to try to pop that up so it helps me to know that there's people out there. Well, it's not going to let me do that. That's all right. Anyway, hello, everyone. I am your friendly neighborhood Lake Oswego School Board member, and really here to provide a couple updates. And I don't know what will be more interesting, my school board updates or the fact that I work and am on the executive team for the Oregon Public Health Division. Because as you can imagine, the last 18 months in both roles have been exceptional. But really our work in Lake Oswego, I guess if I were to offer you updates, particularly as they relate to the Palisades neighborhood, is that these amazing, beautiful young children that we have in our district have had, and I'm sure you know this, a really hard year and a half almost, really having to learn and practice new and different skills as they were schooling from home. I am thrilled and beside myself, it could not have happened soon enough, that the opportunity for elementary to go back in hybrid started happening in February, middle school started in March, and high school just recently started in a hybrid model. And so trying to finish out the year in that way. The seniors at Lake Ridge High School, which you may be interested in, are voting on what options they are liking or wanting to do for graduation. So graduation last year was a drive-through. This year, under different and new guidance, we're trying to make something that might have a little bit more interaction, and the students are looking at that. Other activities going on in the district, we do have an MOU with the city. In fact, the district board, we just extended that at our last board meeting. We are well on our way to planning and doing the work for the community pool at the golf course. So that is well in progress. And I know that that's an agenda item tonight. So hopefully Rob will bring more information forward. And we are continuing to prepare for the next bond. So the bond that we passed 5 years ago was always part of a 3-bond series. And part of what happened is that our buildings were not keeping up the way that they should have. And a lot of that is how schools are funded in the district or funded in the state of Oregon, and what kind of funding buckets can be used for different things. But we have reset and we are on a path. So we've had some amazing, the new beautiful Lake Ridge Middle School. Oh my gosh, this is top of the line, the best of the best, beautiful, and is going to be a great community resource for emergency preparedness and responding. We have a beautiful new Oak Creek over on the north side of the lake that they have had some beautiful expansion. We got 2 new school classrooms out of that, which was more than what we were planning on. we've made updates to all 10 of our facilities. We have improved security and safety. We had to do a lot of foundational work to build up our IT infrastructure so that our students and teachers are able to work with the best and the top for the technology, which has become very important for the last year or so. We have done a lot of work to create STEM spaces and learning spaces for our students to explore science and technology in new and interactive ways. We have also, Westridge in particular and Hallinan have also had some construction work done to reset both the inside but the outside of the buildings as well. So some really important work has happened and has just been so successful. And we really were able to do a lot more than we even thought we could with just good fiscal management, and the credit of the district being so high, we were able to really pull in some phenomenal resources for premium. So we're getting ready for the next phase of the bond, which we always said was going to be about River Grove and Lake Oswego Middle School, formerly known as LOJ. So Lake Oswego Junior High. We're moving to middle schools because 6 through 8 is really a middle school. So rebuilding that. Those 2 buildings have the lowest rating for now. It used to be Lake Ridge Middle School. So now, after that's been fixed, these 2 buildings are the next in line of really needing to be updated for safety, security, and space issues. So we are hopeful. We've been having lots of conversations in community, getting feedback. We're in the development process right now of the bond, and we hope to be moving forward with something in November. So I'm going to stop. I know 5 minutes is not enough time to answer questions, but as Al had said, I am happy to have things forwarded to me and to answer any questions you may have. I take phone calls. The school board gets lots and lots of feedback. Oh, the one thing I'll add is you also may know we are painfully sad to see Dr. De La Cruz leave. She is a huge loss to this district, and it is for all the best reasons, for personal reasons. There's nothing behind it. There's no good Lake Oswego gossip to pass along. It is a legit family comes first. We have learned that in COVID, and she is going to go meet the needs of her family right now. But we are so fortunate that we have a succession plan. We had an assistant superintendent who is ready and so capable, and we are so proud to be able to have Dr. Jen Sheely come in and be our superintendent. So those are the big things from the school board. And like I said, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them offline.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Aird, for that presentation and for being here, and we appreciate that. Now, I do see one hand raised, and let's just have one question for now, and then
Sure.
As was suggested, what we'd like to do is every question will be forwarded to the right person for an answer, or I'll try to do the best I can. So, Kirsty, do you have one?
Yes. Hi, Kirsten. I'm Kirsty. I actually do have a question in regards to the upgrades that have been made to the buildings.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about the upgrades that were made due to COVID and making the buildings more safe, particularly with ventilation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, what I would really do is have Tony, who's our facilities person, do that. But the district made some significant investments in all of our buildings to make sure that we had updated filtration systems that were going to meet the needs of the virus. So we already had good ventilation, but we went in and we did even more. Then we also purchased, but the ones that don't reinforce and create problems for ozone. Then we went in and we got a bunch of, I don't want to misspeak, but we got these spray things. They did this whole video on it where these static collector things, but they're the healthy kind, not the ozone creating kind that goes in between when students are there and not there. They went above and beyond. They exceeded every single requirement in the Ready School Safe Learners. And then they did almost every single recommendation. And they met they're doing everything from the ventilation perspective. But if you want real specifics, Tony's amazing, and I can happily get you in touch and you can get more details on that.
I think, Kirsten, just as a representative of Palisades, I think that is the information that would be really great to get out to our community, because you know, my kids are still online. And that is, I think, one of the biggest concerns is about, you know, windows being open, bus windows being open, and just really putting that message out there very clearly in specific terms so that the community can feel safe and know that, you know, because some of those things, how is that going to work with full-time 5 days a week? You know, are they going to be able to spray in between, or are the kids going to be in that same air for 6 hours or however long the day might be? I think those are things that I'm hearing from the community is a real concern, primarily about ventilation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a lot posted on our website. So it's always a great place to go, but the details, I know that's where the meat is, right? And so we can continue to work to make that as clear as possible so people really know the amazing work that our facilities team has done. And that is how we have invested a lot of the resources that we got this last year, is in making those upgrades.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that would be great for the community to just have that more clearly.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And another possibility would be, Ms. Aird, if you could have, I've communicated with Tony on a different matter, something to do with Lake Ridge. But I've never met him. And if he would like, one thing that you seemed to suggest was there might be some specifications that he might be able to send to us, and we would be happy to get that posted on the PNA website.
Sure.
We can also post it on Nextdoor, and that's a good way to get it out. So
yeah, happy to.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming. Gail, thank you for inviting Ms. Aird, and we do appreciate your being here. The next speaker is, as I mentioned, Councilor Nguyen wasn't able to come, and he was on some of the versions of the agenda, so I apologize for that. But Bill Mark, I think you're here, or someone else from Stafford was going to present.
Well, I'm here. I don't know if you can see me or if you can hear me. So
yes,
not if you can. One of the there you go. I'm definitely here, and thanks for the opportunity. I'm here to represent the Stafford Hamlet and just give you folks a little bit of an update. Palisades kind of starts to abut, I think, the edge of the hamlet, and you know, you just did school districts. Most of our folks are in Westland, Wilsonville, but we do have some folks once you get across Stafford to the west that are in Lake Oswego. So that was good information for me to bring back as well. What we have done, which by the way, the hamlet is an unincorporated area to the south of Lake Oswego, to the east of Tualatin, and to the west of West Lynn. We're similar to really a neighborhood association. We don't have a city that we're responsible to or that we interface with per se, but we do have the three cities I just named that definitely have a strong grip on what our area looks like going forward. And part of that is a result of the three-party or the three-city intergovernmental agreement that was signed in 2019 and has been in place now actually a couple of years. Our body, our Hamlet board put together a community vision plan. We had one from 2015, and because of zoning issues, we felt we had to make a renewed effort to make a new one. And it reflects what our vision for the area is. Now, that vision is only as good as the three cities around us, but we do have we don't have a seat at the table in the sense of a voting seat, but we have a voice. And that is because the three cities made that happen, and we are appreciative of that. So our community vision plan, which is very basic, it's 100 words. You can see it on our website. I'm gonna, keep moving because Al's trying to stay on schedule, and I, as leading the meetings for the Hamlet, know the effort that takes and sometimes the challenges. we're trying to create a conservation ag dynamic in our area. For years, it's been a push and pull between development and status quo or the rural flavor. And I think we're getting the message out, certainly to the city councils, which we have met with over the last, I guess, 2 weeks. We were on their agenda, and they were gracious enough to give us some time to explain both our community vision plan and how that's going to affect the area. What I would, I guess, like you folks to come away with is the understanding that we're trying to create an area that stays somewhat like it is, but is more engaged in active agriculture. There's certainly a lot of opportunities there for growing food for the 3 cities that surround us, and certainly our own residents. And being part of the climate action plans that all 3 cities in the county are putting together, working more as a unit as opposed to a bunch of independent bodies. And I guess to that end, the positive piece that I see coming out of the 3-party IGA, or the 3-city IGA, is that the cities now have to agree as to what occurs out there. In other words, one city can't decide that they want to develop an area without the acceptance of the other 2 cities. And that sounds complicated, and it is, but it's also kind of how we all should operate, because obviously anything that happens, and I think you can see our area and you can see how it relates to your area, very simply, as traffic increases in our area, it's not going to just stay there. It's going to go to the 3 surrounding cities. Right now, if very many of you go down up McVeigh and out Stafford, or down Stafford in the morning and through McVeigh to get on State, the kinds of traffic issues that are common. So what we're trying to do is not put more infrastructure, not more of your tax dollars nor ours, into developing this area, but create an area that is more usable, i.e. what Lesher has become in some of the property that Lake Oswego has developed, more, I guess, more beneficial to these communities, but not as a result of housing or business development, but as a resource, both in agriculture and conservation. Again, on our website, staffordhamlet.com, you can see our community vision plan. Again, I really appreciate you guys. You got it looks like a really full agenda, and congrats on getting candidates and having as many positions as you do to fill. I mean, it may seem like that 5 is not, is not adequate to have that kind of vacancy, but that's, you're doing a marvelous job, and hats off to all of you that volunteer and stay involved with this. So from the Stafford Hamlet, thanks so much for giving us this time. And Al can either reach out to me or Rick Cook, who has been our liaison, not just for your neighborhood association, but others. Thanks so much. Have a good day, folks.
Thank you, Bill. I think that just to summarize from my point of view, we are natural allies. And even though Stafford Hamlet is not technically or officially part of the city of Lake Oswego, we are the most immediate neighbor, and things, as it was pointed out, things that affect the Stafford Hamlet affect Palisades. So we have common interests, and I'm on my agenda. I talked to Jeff Goodman about this yesterday, actually, and he's going to try to arrange for us to meet in person and have another discussion about possible things we can do together. So thank you very much, Bill. Thanks for respecting the time.
Al, it looks like Rick has his hand up.
Yeah, I see him.
Just very, very quickly, I know with all the development with the Lake Oswego Parks and Rec between Lusher Farm, the golf course, swimming pool, Rasik property, all that stuff, I made some pretty good connections over at the county, and I can kind of keep you updated with what the county is reaching out to. And also, I'm not sure if you guys know about the Child Stafford $6 million, or actually probably $10 to $12 million project there. And then Johnson Road that's going to be coming on in 2024. So we can get you that information. You can kind of post that with your neighborhood association, and we can work together on those pieces, but we're so connected.
Okay, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you and actually getting to meet in person. So thanks so much. I want to address. I've been noticing the chat box, and several of you have been asking questions, and this is the first time we've done a general meeting virtually like this, and so we probably should have anticipated it. I saw that Mr. Moon asked a question about the LO school system. So Mario, I'm going to ask you a question. I assume that the Zoom functionality includes an ability to archive these questions so that we can respond to them if we don't do it in the meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we promise that we will do it. Mr. Moon asked a question about the school district. So what we can do is we will forward that to Ms. Aird, and similarly, Ms. Wilkinson asked a question. Are you going to be able to ask questions? The answer is yes, and we have some committee reports coming up, and I'll try to recognize maybe one question per presenter or two if I see your hand. I am looking for hands. But as I say, for some reason, I'm only able to see 6 people at a time. So I have to scroll through about 4 or 5 screens to see everybody. So anyway, that's how we're going to try to handle this. But every question will be answered. And if you don't get an answer tonight, then please enter one in our website, and it will come to me, and I will make sure that we route it correctly for you. So sorry again that we don't have 4 or 5 hours to address every issue, but we will answer the question, and then some of these may elevate to the level that we need to have a board discussion about it. So we'll try to respect everyone's input. So with that, the next presentation, Frederique Lavios is our webmaster, and she is brilliant. I mean, for us to have a resource like Frederique is such a really a privilege and a talent that I just can't say enough about her. She wasn't able to make it tonight. So, but part of our strategy when Dave Thatcher left was to try to rally around a communication strategy with the theory that the main thing we're here for is to make sure residents are aware of things that affect us. And so we focused on the website, and then Frederique manages the postings there, and also Nexstar, which Mario handles. So those are our 2 primary channels of communication. So Mario, I think you're gonna fill in for Frederique tonight, so I'll let you take that.
Yeah, thanks. So ultimately just highlighting the website here. As you can see, it's been updated. I'm sure all of you have been to it to sign on to the Zoom. But you can see we have updated maps here that we were able to get from the city. So it's a lot cleaner. And then you can go to your different areas where that's highlighted at, and figure out if you want to be a part of the essentially get involved with us. And you can see all the different resources we have here. But yeah, I mean, it's very informative. We're trying not to overload it and still keep it clean. We just had an emergency meeting not that long ago, and you can find that stuff on here as well, past meetings. So we had an ice storm review that we went over. So yeah, take a look at that. So that's all I got on that end.
Okay, thank you, Mario. The next presenters.
I have a question. This is Albie.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think previously we had some sponsors, and they had like links to their websites. I think there was a realtor. I think Palisades Market might have had a link. So basically, sponsorship means money.
Yeah.
And I don't see that here now. Are we going to think about that again? Because I mean, it's a good way to make money.
So that question came up recently about do we accept paid ads? I think our website is so good because of Frederique that we could probably do it. However, And I wanted to check the legality of it first, because I wasn't sure if it was permitted by the city, and it turns out it is. And but at the same time, there were a couple of board members in on the conversation, and we decided that managing that right now was probably not the highest priority that we have, even though we could use the revenue. So it's probably a good agenda item for us to address when the new board takes over, and to consider that as a possible revenue source. But it also has to be managed, and we're running light on volunteers. And so that's another appeal you'll hear me make during this meeting, that we love having so many of you in the call, and it would be even greater if we could recruit a few of you to some of these volunteer opportunities to help us get those things done.
Okay.
So that's right now, that's the status of it.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay. Next is we go to emergency prep, and we have well, actually three. So we'll have Rick and Mark and Kirsty tell us about emergency prep.
Wonderful. I guess I get to go first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rick Eilers, and I'm the Emergency Preparedness Chair for the Palisades Neighborhood Association and the founder and co-chair of Prep LO. So do we all remember the ice storm from mid-February, or the Oregon wildfires from last September, or the start of the pandemic a year ago? What we've been experiencing is part of a constant or continuous cycle of natural disasters. In the past, it's been floods like 1964, 1995, windstorms like the Columbus Day storm of 1962, where Portland recorded a wind gust of 116 miles an hour, or Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980. Disasters come in all sizes, from national events that involve millions of people to individual events that involve you or your family. The family events include a house fire, loss of a job, family illness or disability, or loss of a spouse. What I want to get across to you is that we always need to be prepared for some type of an event that changes our lives. After the Japanese earthquake and tsunami in 2011, a group of us in the PNA started an emergency preparedness committee to promote preparedness and resiliency in our neighborhood. Many people got involved by buying water barrels, stocking up on canned foods and emergency rations, and developing their emergency plans. The next step was making sure your home has been inspected for seismic stability and retrofitted. If your home was built after 1985, you don't need to be concerned about bolting your home, as the building codes were changed and the anchors are sufficient. Those homes between 1975 and 1985 were in a code transition period and may need retrofitting, and those built before 1975 definitely need more anchors. In 2014, I started a citywide emergency preparedness group called Prep LO. Prep LO is a committed team of Lake Oswego neighborhood associations joined together to promote self-sufficiency and resiliency. I encourage you to visit the website, preplo.org, O-R-G, as it contains the results of 6 years worth of meetings, discussions, and research from experts on every key emergency preparedness field. All this information is available to you on the site, so check it out. In mid-March, the Palisades Neighborhood Association hosted a Zoom meeting about the ice storm with the heading, "What worked, what didn't work, and what I would do differently next time." I'd like to share some of the highlights of that meeting. What worked? Wood stoves worked. Generators, camp stoves and propane bottles, water, sewer, gas chainsaws, camping lanterns, yak tracks. They're those little rubber shoes that you put on underneath your shoes so you can walk on ice. Gas fireplaces worked, weather band radio, neighbors who communicate and work together, Somebody brought up a French press coffee. Natural gas hot water heaters worked, LED flashlights, and always having extra batteries were something that people were proud that they had on hand. Items that didn't work during the ice storm were obviously communications, cable, internet, some texting worked, some phone calls went through, not all the time. None of our kitchen appliances worked. Tankless hot water heaters didn't work. Fridge and freezers went out. Generators didn't work that hadn't been maintained. And natural gas furnaces didn't work because they need electricity. So, and lastly, our last group was what I would do differently next time. Maintain and service the generator. More LED lights. People said they wanted to store more propane on in their properties. Install a wood burning fireplace insert. Invest in a generator. Add weather stripping. Have remote thermometers for fridge and freezers so you didn't have to open them up. Practice and test hooking the generator up to your furnace. So if you have any questions about how to get your emergency preparedness plan started, visit preplo.org or email me, and we can maybe put it on this site at some point, preparednw@gmail.com. I'd be happy to help you out. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. This is Albie again. That was great. So I think the fires that happened across the state are more frightening to me than the ice storms. Are there any different things that the Prep LO is doing in the case of fires that could possibly sweep right through Lake Oswego like it did in other places that were never expected? Like, I don't think anybody expected the little town of Detroit to disappear.
Right.
Or, Paradise, California.
Yes, we do have a couple of items going right now. One doesn't have to do with the amount of fuel that's out there. We can't really control that. I have been in contact with the fire department to see if the CERT group, who has actually now got their own website and is on call. So in case the fire department needs extra help, they can call up the CERT members. I've got the question out right now, can some of the CERT members learn how to do wildland firefighting? So if the city has too many things going on and we get some fires started, that we could call up a group of 15 or 20 CERT trained, wildland firefighter trained people that can jump in and help our fire department out.
Yeah.
So
I'd be worried about evacuation, people just packing their cars and trying to get out and having the roads, just jammed.
Yeah, we'll have to continue the conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Rick. One of the things that struck me about that whole incident, the whole event, was that I don't think there was clarity around what is the role of the individual resident, what is the role of the neighborhood association, and what is the role of the city. I think that the more work that we can do to define that and articulate it so that people's expectations are aligned with what the missions are for each of those organizations. And I'm just not sure that was clear, because I know a lot of citizens were not happy with the response of the city and for good reason. And Kirsty's going to talk about an incident, I think, where we were able to intervene on behalf of some residents. But I just think this whole issue of what are individual residents responsible for? What is the neighborhood association's role, and what is the city, so that people understand really what they're expected to do and what they can expect, where they can expect to get help.
Yes, and I believe so many of the downfalls of that ice storm were communication.
Yeah.
We did not know what the city was doing, and they didn't know what the problems we had at the same time. So
And we were asking those questions, and essentially we were getting answers like, well, the city, you know, we were worried about, or asking questions about why is Stafford Road still littered with tree limbs encroaching on the roadway, unsafe for anybody. And the city advised us that they could not address clearing the roads until the utility had been there to clear the wires. And so that was the bottleneck. That was the constraint that prevented those roads from being cleared sooner. So anyway, we need to do some work in that area.
Yes, great conversation.
Okay.
If I can make one other insertion here, as far as the fire safety and prevention or preparedness, I would like to see that as a separate item that the committee take up as a topic to discuss in a future meeting, because I think it would take time to go through all those issues and maybe develop a task plan of, you know, who's going to follow up on which things. But at any rate, that's kind of dear to my heart. That's one of the reasons I took on this role, is that I think there's a lot of misinformation or poor assumptions about the trees and the state of trees, especially around my neighborhood and most of Palisades even. So at any rate.
Okay, thanks, Tom. We appreciate that. I definitely would like to have you included in that conversation. So we'll need to put that on our action list. Okay, Mark.
Hi, everybody. Mark Thornburg. I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know exactly what part of Palisades I live in, but I can find that out. It's wonderful to meet all of you tonight. At least I've been living here for probably 6 or 7 years. I retired as a school psychologist from Newburgh School District, but I took up the hobby of amateur radio communications, and I'm going to move through these slides very quickly here. So next slide, and thank you, Rick, for providing my introduction. On to the next slide. We know what happened during the ice storm. We couldn't communicate, we couldn't get out. So we can keep moving to the next slide. It could have been worse. We did have natural gas and those that had generators connected to their furnaces, but earthquake would mean much worse. Before I forget it, I want to say, we are a radio group that met during this ice storm. We decided that we would set up an emergency net every 3 hours on the hour. And there were about 17 or 18 people throughout the city of Lake Oswego that were meeting over the air during that time. And before I forget about it, as more neighborhood associations are starting to pick up these radios and working within neighborhoods, one of the fantastic ideas is to be setting up watches for fires. Those folks with radios can be spread out over areas that, for example, Tryon Creek, and be able to speak to the locations of fires, and that information can be sent up the line. But let's move on here. Next slide, please. So there's about 44 members in Lake Oswego of our emergency radio service. Next slide. This just gives you some idea that we are all over the city, and this is a group that was meeting during the ice storm continuously. We were able to share situation reports with each other. We were able to share equipment, generators, and so on. Next slide. So there were about 17 of us at that time. Next slide. But in a way, we failed. Our neighbors didn't know that we existed as a functioning communication network. And if they had known, we might have been able to pass important information across the city to the appropriate people. Next slide. The city, as Rick is describing, is working, the fire department is working with neighborhood associations to better organize the use of the frequencies for radios so that neighborhoods are not interfering with each other. So that work is being done right now. And the city is also developing training for folks in using radios. And so I'm looking at the bottom here that the fire department has created a work group with representatives from LO, licensed radio operators, neighborhood association leaders to develop a citywide radio communication plan, along with training resources. Next slide. This little radio has turned out to be quite a little powerful unit that puts out 2 watts. And these are an example here, one example of the many tests that are being done to understand just how far these radios can cover. And so again, it's important that they be coordinated across the different neighborhoods. Next slide. So the city is hoping to provide to neighborhoods videos on how to operate radios, an online meeting for additional information on the plan, a series of hosted in-person trainings when we can, and documented information that we can utilize and help plan for basic training. Next slide. This is a work in progress. It's going to have to come together in depending on the number of people in neighborhoods that take up radio, because that will describe, will let us know how to send the communications up the line. If a neighborhood has several people, we need to have a system so that the neighborhood communicators, people that know that these people exist in the neighborhood, will have the radios powerful enough and set up in the frequencies to send into our amateur radio group, because we actually have a radio at the Emergency Operations Center. So using our system, the neighborhoods can reach the Emergency Operations Center anywhere in the city after this is organized. And next slide. This is my last slide. We've already established emergency radio nets that can reach across large areas of Lake Oswego. We are here. There is an advantage when more citizens have become trained in radio use. It is not difficult to become a licensed amateur radio operator. There's Friday afternoon, Saturday morning courses that usually provide training sufficient to pass a technician level amateur radio license test. 28 out of 35 questions. Not hard really, especially after a 2-day course like that. This is in progress, as I say. The systems, certainly we want you to know that all of us as licensed amateur radio operators in Lake Oswego, if you come to our door with a message and you need to send that message, I can guarantee you that it will be spread across the city, and we'll make sure that it gets to the people that it needs to get to. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mark.
I have a question.
Sure.
Palisades Neighborhood a few years ago had a grant for two-way radios.
Right.
Unfortunately, because Palisades is so hilly, we couldn't communicate with each other. Mine, I think I could only reach one other person. I couldn't send a message down to the fire station. Well, I don't know if that was supposed to happen, but it didn't. The two-way radios did not work for us because of our hills and valleys and so forth. So what's our next step?
Well, we are working on developing exactly the plan that will make sure that you can reach out, especially those that are identified as neighborhood communicators. We've also established what's called General Mobile Radio Service. This is a license frequency that it does not require a license. You just simply go to Walmart or Amazon and buy these radios, and they will cover, when I showed you, much greater distances. But on top of that, we've actually built a repeater, and it's one of probably a couple of repeaters for the city that are being developed, so that you'll be able to, once you reach a repeater, it will rebroadcast the signal at a higher power. So this is will solve the problem that you're describing.
Hey, Mark, this is Rick again. We did a radio test in Palisades where we put about, I don't know, we must have put 15 radios out in each of the different areas, each of the 13 areas. And what we found because of Cook's Butte is we just have shadows everywhere. One of the big problems up by Lake Ridge High School was that our fire department down off South Shore is down in a hole and nobody could reach it by radio. But we kept getting a lot of overtalk when we were doing the messaging, and we realized the Waluga neighborhood was doing their radio test the same night, and we could talk to the Gene Road Fire Station and them but we couldn't talk to ourselves. But that's what a radio test is all about, is we're figuring out what works, what doesn't, and how we can work around that. So yes, looking forward to working with you on that.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, just one other final note here. Some of you may be familiar with the Neighborhood Enhancement Program, which is a city, someone mentioned, or Gail mentioned that there had been a grant for radios, and many of the neighborhood associations have been successful in applying for and receiving money for emergency preparation caches, which includes a lot of the kinds of emergency equipment you would expect. And we talked about this with Rick, and Rick advised us that we weren't really ready for this right now. And I respect that. His viewpoint is probably the most informed that we have as a subject matter expert. So we're not applying for it this year, but I'm hoping that we learn enough here to at least get one next year, assuming that the technology and we've sorted out some of these citywide issues. Because what I heard you saying was we can't just have obviously a neighborhood association solution. It needs to be broader than that in order for it to be effective. So that makes sense to me from the system standpoint. So anyway, we won't be making an application for that this year, but hopefully you can coach us, Rick and Mark, and get us prepared to do it maybe the next cycle.
I have a question for Mark or maybe Rick. So a year or two, maybe 3 years ago, there were some emergency towers that were proposed for Cooks Butte, and it was very much opposed by Palisades Neighborhood Association. In any way, shape, or form, would those towers help with shadows and valleys and communications, or is that a completely different type of network?
The 800 Group 800 that was going to put the tower up is a private company, but that would be radio for police and fire for Lake Oswego, and not related to our amateur radio use. But yes, it is true that they are trying to cover the holes with that. They were trying to cover with that tower. I don't know anything more about where that's gone as far as the police and fire.
Okay, thanks.
It's complicated. It's with all of the neighborhoods, just picking up a radio, it takes a lot more than that to know what to do with it. It's really to become part of a system where you're part of a net and you can take your turn and provide information and so on.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
And Kirsty.
Yes, hi. Well, gosh, Mark, that's really impressive about the radios. I didn't really know much about that. And I'm wondering if perhaps that is something that each area rep could get involved in. Since we kind of already have that structure in place, it would be great in the Palisades to know that, the area reps have a radio and can help facilitate that in an emergency. I'd certainly be willing to get involved and see if I could do that. But speaking to that, what I found during the storm, I actually wasn't in LO during the storm. I was actually in sunny Santa Barbara with full power. But I was my husband was home by himself, and I was getting a lot of texts from neighbors. And I think the biggest thing is especially after several days, people were starting to panic. And because I was not, dealing with all the hardship, I was able to be a kind of a calming force and be able to, because a lot of people were trying to conserve their phone batteries, I was able to reach out to the city, and with Al's help, we reached out to the city to see if we could get somebody to come specifically to Area 10, which was the corner of Canyon and Delwood. That was pretty hard hit with trees down and people trapped in their houses. But I didn't really know what I could do, but just calling the power company, and we got all our neighbors on long group texts, and I was able to communicate probably to at least 15 different people in my area to let them know the progress, and that that the PGE was on it, and that, what the progress report was. And so I think having a radio system like that for obvious emergency, but also just to kind of help keep people calm and let them know that they're not forgotten about, I think would go a long way. So anyway, in doing that, I realized the great need that our neighborhood had with the cleanup. And so it was actually suggested to me by a neighbor, which I picked up and ran with it, and it was getting bins. So a lot of people in my immediate community were saying, like, well, we can't get to the city drops to to haul our debris there. And even if they could, they filled so quickly. So I worked with the city to get 3 large Republic Services bins. And we posted that on Nextdoor and also on the P&A website to try to make it fair. Unfortunately, I was only able to get 3. I was trying to get 6, which was a bit of a stretch, but I thought I would try. And so it was helpful. They came very late, but I think they helped people that really needed it, that perhaps didn't have the means to have landscapers do it. But I think that speaks to your question, Al, in regards to, what is everybody's responsibility? What is the city's responsibility, the P&A's responsibility, and our individual responsibility? And I'm still uncertain of what that is, but I was, at least trying to do what I could. And normally the city would not give bins for individual property owners. It would be more for like a Cooks Butte cleanup or for, a common space. But because the storm was so severe and because the bins were available, because the city has a franchise agreement with Republic that they have a certain amount of bins each year that they will give to the city for various different things. And so we used those bins. So that's basically it. I know that there were some people that I wasn't able to help, but we were able to help several streets. So that was good.
Al, you're muted.
Tommy beat me to it.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I've been clicking. So yeah, I just think Kirsty, you did a great job representing the neighbors and being an advocate for them and trying to sort that question out, which I think we really need to address. But I really appreciate all you did, and I'm sure your neighbors did too. And I think it's a good example of what an area rep can do to help their neighbors, and I think you did it. So thank you. Okay, Tom.
Hi. So look forward to meeting everybody more in person as we get a chance to do that. This is my understanding, this role is a new role. It's been more informally done by everyone, with, I guess, the chair being the person to get the emails and from the city and sort those out in the past. So I've been on this role now since March 26th, and went over the role with Al and suggested a couple little changes after I looked at that for a few days and saw kind of the process that was going on. So what on this slide, I am not replicating the whole policy. I just tried to take just the highlights over to this. And so I guess really the main point is that with me in this role of trying to be a facilitator, is that we want to not have the area rep and me both go out and talk to the property owners, or doing things independently where we don't know that each other have done it, and don't want the property owner to feel like they're two different people coming up and asking similar questions, and don't want that look. So the way I've been doing it is, and several of you have already gotten some notices, is I just forward the notice on and say what my first impression on it. If I'm going to be going out there, I'll try to say, hey, I think it's one that merits a site visit or whatever. And if you get it, if you're somebody who wants to just not really go out and get involved with it, that's fine. And you can just ignore or, just file away the emails that I send. But if you're going to take an active role, let me know so that we can coordinate our activity together. And then irrespective of whether the individual area rep goes and takes any action on it or whatever, there's still certain things that I'll be doing, which is to kind of log the event so that I can track it over time, and also log attributes about it so that we can look back later and say, how many significant trees have been involved in these, or even how many have we had over the last year, what is our average per month or whatever kind of. So anyways, and then as far as taking formal action, if we're going to represent the P&A, either myself or the individual area reps should not do anything formal that way without escalating it to the chair, and so they has an opportunity to put together a group discussion about it first. So what's been happening over this last basically a month? I put this together on April 26th. So 10 type 2 applications came in during that time. None of them were ones that needed any more action from us. I did do, walk by the site and just to look on, I think 3 or 4 of the 10. The rest of them were straightforward enough. I didn't feel even that was warranted. None have involved significant trees. 4 have been approved. And in the last couple of days, 2 more have come in since then. And then the other, at that time 6, now 4 are still pending. With a fairly even mix between what is considered an outgrown area versus landscape improvement or development type of applications. It's new enough that if anybody has any comments, suggestions, whatever, feel free to send those to chairperson@palisadesneighborhood.org. Both Al and I know would appreciate input and think about how we could improve this process. So.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Tom really come in and is not only running for area rep, but also agreed to be the tree permit coordinator. And just so, I think maybe you mentioned this, Tom, but the neighborhood association takes a neutral position. We don't run out and make any formal take a formal position with the city about a particular property and a tree that's being removed. And that's what Tom's doing. There may be cases where we should get involved, and it's going to be a small minority, as Tom said. None of them so far have required any escalation. But one example I will cite that we would probably want to have some involvement is if some perceptions are, perhaps fairly, perhaps not, that in some cases it appears that developers get the benefit of the doubt about tree removal. And in my opinion, that shouldn't happen. It should be the residents gets the benefit of the doubt. So if we sense that something like that's going on, then that might be an area where we might get involved. Otherwise, we are neutral. So thank you, Tom, for what you're doing there. And next is Kim for traffic.
Okay. So I just contacted Jay Wheatman, who's the traffic sergeant. He just gave me an overview. Basically, he said crash data citywide. There have been, oh, why is it saying? Sorry, I just got a weird message on my computer. Citywide, he said there's been a total of 35 crashes in 2021, 9 of those injury. One of those 35 crashes happened within the Palisades Neighborhood Association, non-injury crash on Green Tree in March, a minor accident in a driveway. And here's a quick traffic citation summary to describe the quick glance view, which I have a couple of PDFs that I will just add to the meeting notes, and those can be put on the website. it's specific to Palisades neighborhood. Year to date so far in 2021, 1,201 total traffic citations have been issued in LO so far in 2021. Approximately 48 citations out of 1,201 issued within the Palisades Neighborhood Association. Top 3 violations were speed, stop signs, and cell phone use. 31 of the 48 citations were issued on Stafford Road, mostly for speed. 7 of those 48 citations were issued at South Shore and Westview. 6 for stop signs, 1 for cell phone use. Regarding Stafford Road, he added a note that the speed limit between Rosemont Road and South Shore Boulevard has been changed from 40 miles per hour to 35. He said since that change took effect last summer, traffic engineering did some traffic studies that showed average speeds actually increased a little. They also had a handful of crashes there over the past couple of years. He decided, he said, to direct some additional patrols to focus on that area starting October 2020 or so. And he said since January, no crashes. So again, I will add the PDFs to this. I know there's some traffic issues concerned to the golf course and aquatic center development. And I don't know how to pronounce this, but the park, the Rassic Park. So again, you know, we're just going to have to, you know, I'm not sure how to address that really, other than to just, I guess, keep everybody informed, maybe post some updates on our website. And then we did get results from the Palisades Neighborhood Association, did a 2020 traffic cushion survey. The results are in, and Al, you know, I'm not sure if we shared that with anybody with the city, but I think we should share it with Will Farley, the traffic engineer. And I did sign up today for a May 12th Traffic Advisory Board virtual meeting that's happening in a couple of weeks. And we've discussed a traffic subcommittee, and I was thinking maybe, you know, best way to maybe handle that is to reach out to a few people and see if we can get some volunteers and maybe have meetings like the week before our Palisades meetings and kind of come to the meeting like right now with sort of a report.
Okay. So I mean, sort of a traffic specific session. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay.
Right. Can I just say something, Kim? Liz Hartman, who is has been on the school board for a number of years and I believe is running again, at the Respond to Racism candidate forum they had the other night, she actually was talking about traffic, particularly in making it safer for kids to walk to school and ride their bikes to school to help get cars off the road. So she might be a great person too, that could be an advocate of some of the things that we've been, you know, talking about in the Palisades neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. So just a reminder, we got about 8 minutes out. So
right. So I just want to, for those doubters who think that we don't actually have neighborhood signs, can you show that people might think that this is a photoshopped, imagined sign. Can you bring it up for us? Oh, there it is. Thank you. So I actually wanted to put my own eyeball. These are sitting in the city maintenance department, and what's holding it up, these have been there probably for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. The thing that's holding them up, there's a special machine that is not actually a backhoe. It's not actually a mechanical digger. It is Jim Bateman of the city staff explained it to me as a sort of a vibration excavator of some sort. I've never seen that, but and the reason they have to do that is because there's a lot of things buried in these locations, and just about every location, and so they have to be careful in certain places to just dig and put a hydraulic shovel into a piece of ground, because they never know what they're going to come up with. So there's a part missing, and he doesn't have that piece of equipment. So for those of you who aren't aware, we're going to have these installed essentially near the intersection of Overlook and Stafford Road, and also at Green Tree and South Shore. So they look really great. I think the supplier did a good job, and the issue will be how long will they be up before someone steals the copper caps. So, and also Rick asked a question earlier about should we be posting signs, and we've asked a question about can we post neighborhood meeting signs on our neighborhood signs, and the answer was yes. So once these are installed, we have another way to communicate. So I can't predict when it'll happen, but it's in the works. So finally, for presentations, Mary, on the pre-application process.
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. Okay, I've been asked to explain a little bit about what a pre-application conference is. It's a meeting that occurs in some planning, some applications for development. It's required for all minor and major developments and for all accessory dwelling units that add floor area to a lot. So it's something that the planning department organizes when one of these applications is in the offing. It occurs before any application has actually been filed, so it's a preliminary step. And sometimes no application is ever filed after this exploratory phase, but other times there can be 2 or more pre-application conferences before the application is filed. So any applicant for a major development proposal, a partition, or a non-residential project must hold a neighborhood meeting before submitting their application in order to explain their proposal and allow for public comment. So this would happen, the neighborhood meeting would happen after the pre-application conference. The purpose of the pre-application conference is to give the potential applicant an explanation of the planning department review process, to discuss the city development codes that apply to the case and to which they must meet, and to allow the applicant to ask questions of the planner. So people that would attend a pre-application conference include 1 or more people that represent the property owner or the developer, the city planner that's assigned to the case, a representative of the city engineering department, representatives of other city departments if necessary, and up to 2 people from the neighborhood. A meeting is focused on city codes that are applicable to the proposal, and planning department decisions must be based on adherence to the code provisions. The role of the neighborhood association representative in the meeting is to provide relevant information specific to the neighborhood, attempt to establish a cooperative relationship with the potential applicant, and ask questions of the applicant and or the planner. After the meeting, the representative makes a report to the association describing the project and highlights any questions or areas of concern. Then the association can also send comments to the planner. When a neighborhood meeting is called, that's the opportunity for the general public to see the proposal and make comments, which will become part of the planning department review. So basically, the pre-application conference is something that occurs before the applicant for a development project actually files the application. So that's kind of the brief explanation.
Thank you, Mary. Mary does a terrific job on these. Unfortunately, she's going to be leaving the board, but she's agreed to help with representing the neighborhood association at these conferences. But what we really need is to recruit folks, and they don't have to be an area rep, but would be trained. You have to have formal training from the city in order to represent us at these meetings, which are essentially hearings. And it's a good opportunity, and it's just the official channel for us to provide input for developers. And a lot of people I know are concerned about traffic and additional development and all of those issues. And this is our way to have a significant input into the process. So just another request for volunteers. We have a lot of good people on the call that are obviously interested in their neighborhood. We hope that some of you might stick your toe in the water.
I have a question. What is considered development? Like, is a tear down of an existing home and then replacing it by a Renaissance home, is that considered development?
I believe that would be considered development, but I don't, as far as I went on the city website to try to determine the definition of major and minor developments and wasn't able to come up with something. I was hoping Rob Heap would be on the call tonight because he would be a good resource to explain some of these planning definitions. And I think if it could be, maybe I don't know that they always require a neighborhood meeting. I guess I can't answer the question.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mary. That was very informative. And thank you for all the good work you've been doing for us. I think that covers the presentations. And I'm just going to go quickly through the new businesses, essentially just the election. The voting is officially over at midnight tonight. We actually had a write-in. I think we had 2 maybe. And so that is also possible. So after we have the results of the vote, which we don't know right now, then the elected area reps and then the chair will convene and then select the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. And that's how our process works. That's kind of typical of not-for-profit organizations. And I think all the neighborhood associations pretty much run it like that. So I'll be calling a meeting. I was initially thinking I would do it tonight, but I think I'm going to wait and get feedback from all the attendees, and then we'll announce the new board. So let's see, Mario. I know I was going to mention one thing. I don't think Rob is on the call. And so for the first time, I'm seeing everybody on the same page. I guess people are leaving the meeting, but just very quickly, we have these 2 significantly sizable projects going up right in our backyard in Palisades, and that's Rassick Park, which is at the intersection. It's at the Rosemont Circle, basically. It looks like an old abandoned hazelnut grove, which has gone to hay and some not very healthy looking trees. That'll become athletic fields. And then we have the Aquatic and Rec Center. Now, one little piece of information that I've been able to glean from this traffic impact is that if I understand the reports correctly, and this is something I think we should post on the PNA website, the Stafford Road is considered what is called a minor artery. That has some significance in the world of traffic vocabulary. And it means a certain amount of traffic. I want to say something like 10 to 20,000 vehicles a day, if my memory serves, is the definition. And the traffic studies that have been done so far indicate that we're down in the low end of that. And so essentially their interpretation of that analysis is that Stafford Road still is not near capacity. And the implication of that is even if we increased traffic due to the Aquatic and Recreation Center and the Rassick Park, we won't be pushing the limit. Now, I think that's where the neighborhood has to say, well, we would like to know more about that. We might want to get involved, and eventually we might want to have some sort of neighborhood statement, which will become a public document, a matter of public record. So that's the latest on those 2 things. So if you have questions about that, please submit them to the website. We're 3 minutes over, but I just want to allow for the remaining 21 people on the call. Anybody have any final thoughts, any comments? I don't see any hands, and so thank you all for coming. Please submit any additional questions. Every question that you submit will be answered. I promise you that, and hopefully within a few days. Not a week, but a few days. We'll just have to make sure they get to the right people. So thank you very much, and the meeting is
Yeah,
adjourned.
sorry for dropping off there.
Okay. Thank you, Mario, for all you did to help us with the technology and setting up the slide deck and everything else you did to support the meeting. Great job.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.